The orange light of Viridia's sun was fading, painting the dusty sky in shades of purple and gray. Inside a large metal building, a man named Minsu was working. He was a mechanic. His hands were covered in dark grease, and his simple clothes were stained with oil. The building was his repair shop. It was full of broken machines and old engine parts. The air smelled like metal and fuel. In one corner, a small robot arm was sparking weakly. Minsu was focused on a broken plasma conduit. It was a long, tube-like part that glowed with blue energy. It was cracked, and the energy inside was leaking out in small, dangerous sparks. He was trying to fix it. This was his job. He took broken things and made them work again. He liked the quiet, the logic of it. A broken part has a problem. You find the problem. You fix it. A beeping sound broke the silence. It was his communication device sitting on a messy table. He wiped his hands on a cloth and picked it up. A woman's face appeared on the screen. It was his younger sister, Gina. She looked excited but also a little worried. "Minsu, are you still at the shop?" she asked. "Yes, working," he said. His voice was quiet from not being used for a few hours. "You work too much. You should go home. Eat some real food." Gina was always telling him this. She was a scientist who studied alien life, a xenobiologist. She was very smart and always moving, always talking. They were very different. "I will. Soon. Where are you? Your background looks strange." Gina's camera showed a glimpse behind her. The walls were not made of plain metal like in the human colony. They were smooth and had a soft, pearly glow. There were strange, twisting symbols on them. "I'm at the Krillian Enclave," Gina said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "For my research." "It's amazing here, Minsu. Their technology is so different, but the mood is a little tense today. The Krillians were the aliens who shared the planet Viridia with the humans. They were insect-like, with tough exoskeletons and large dark eyes. They were very advanced and kept mostly to themselves in their own part of the colony, the Enclave. Humans and Krillians lived side by side, but they were not friends. They were just neighbors who tried not to bother each other." "Tense? What does that mean?" Minsu asked. He put down his tools. He was listening carefully now. "I don't know. The officials I was talking to seemed nervous. They got a message and suddenly ended our meeting. There are more guards around than usual. I think I should head back soon." "Yes, you should. Be careful, Gina." "I will. Don't worry about me. Just go home, okay? Promise me." "I promise," Minsu said. "I will finish this and go." They said goodbye and the screen went dark. The shop was quiet again, but the quiet felt different now. It felt heavy. Minsu looked at the broken plasma conduit. He did not feel like working anymore. Gina's worried face was stuck in his mind. He started cleaning his tools. He put them away in their correct boxes. He wiped the grease off the work table. He was a man of routine. He liked order. The messy shop was organized in his own way. Then the world exploded. It was not a bomb. It was a deep, groaning crump sound like a giant building being crushed. The ground shook under his feet. A moment later, a sharp, piercing shriek cut through the air. It was not a human sound. It was a sound of pure terror and pain. Minsu ran to the large door of his shop and pushed it open. He looked towards the Krillian Enclave. A tall, graceful spire, one of their residential buildings, was on fire. But this was not a normal fire. It was a sickly green-colored fire. Thick black smoke poured from a huge hole in its side. Pieces of the pearly white building material were still falling to the ground. People were starting to gather on the street, their faces lit by the strange green light. They were pointing and shouting. Alarm sirens began to wail all across the human colony. Minsu did not think. He ran towards the fire. His long legs carried him quickly past the staring people, past the low human buildings towards the border of the Krillian sector. A crowd had already formed at the entrance to the Enclave. Human security guards were there, holding people back. Krillian guards were also there, their bodies tense, their large, dark eyes reflecting the green flames. They were clicking and chattering to each other in their own language, their voices high and fast with panic. The heat from the fire was intense. It was a dry chemical heat that made the air shimmer. Human firefighters were there, but their water hoses did nothing to the green fire. The water just turned to steam with a loud hiss. "Stay back. It's a chemical fire. Our equipment is useless." A human security officer was yelling through a megaphone. Minsu pushed his way to the front of the crowd. His eyes were fixed on the burning building. Then he saw it. On the third level, through a cracked, transparent wall, was a small figure. It was a Krillian child. It was small, its exoskeleton a lighter color than the adult's. It was trapped. A heavy piece of ceiling had fallen, pinning its leg. The child was flailing its small limbs, its mouth open in a silent scream. The green fire was creeping closer inch by inch. No one was going in. The Krillian guards seemed afraid of the fire. It was a type of fire they could not control. Minsu looked at the child. He looked at the fire. He looked at the faces of the guards, full of fear and confusion. He thought of his sister, safe because she left early. He thought of the child, alone and scared. He did not make a plan. He did not decide to be a hero. He just saw a problem. A living thing was broken and trapped, and he was a man who fixed things. He saw a large open pipe near the edge of the crowd. Cool, clean water from the colony's recycling system was flowing out of it, used for cleaning the streets. It was not a lot, but it was enough. He ran to it. He took off his thick jacket. He soaked it completely in the cold water. The water dripped from the fabric, darkening the ground. "Hey, what are you doing?" A guard shouted at him. Minsu did not answer. He wrapped the wet jacket around his head and shoulders. He took a deep breath of the clean air, tasting the water on the cloth. Then he ran. He ran straight towards the burning building. People shouted. Guards tried to grab him, but he was too fast. He dodged past them and jumped through the hole in the building's side, into the heart of the green inferno. The heat was like a physical wall. It hit him immediately, sucking the air from his lungs. The smoke was thick and black, stinging his eyes even through the wet cloth. The inside of the building was alien and confusing. The rooms were not square. The hallways went up at sharp angles. Everything was made of glowing, burning material. He coughed, his throat burning. He could hear the child now. It was a soft, desperate clicking sound. He followed the sound, crawling low to the ground where the air was a little better. He found the child in a small round room. The fire was all around the doorway, eating its way in. The child saw him and flinched, its 4 black eyes wide with a new kind of fear. It did not know him. He was a strange, hairless creature from another world. "It's okay," Minsu said, his voice rough from the smoke. He did not know if the child understood his words, but he hoped it understood his tone. "I am here to help." The piece of ceiling on its leg was huge. Minsu put his shoulder against it. He pushed, his muscles strained. The veins on his neck stood out. He grunted with the effort. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a grinding sound, the piece of ceiling shifted just a little. It was enough. He reached down and pulled the child free. It was light in his arms, its body hard and cool despite the heat. It was shaking. One of its legs was bent at a wrong angle, and a pale blue fluid was leaking from a crack. Minsu held the child close. He looked back the way he came. The hallway was now a solid wall of green fire. There was no way out. The wet jacket was starting to steam. The edges were turning black and curling. He could feel the heat on his back. He was trapped. He looked around the room. There was another wall, one that led to the outside. It was cracked but still holding. It was his only chance. He held the Krillian child tighter, shielding its small body with his own. He made sure the wet jacket covered as much of them both as possible. "Close your eyes," he whispered. Then, with a loud cry of effort and fear, he ran forward and threw his whole weight against the cracked wall. The wall exploded outward. Minsu and the child tumbled out into the open air. They fell onto the hard ground, rolling a short distance away from the burning building. People rushed towards them. Hands reached for them. He felt the child being gently taken from his arms. He saw a Krillian medic holding the child, clicking softly and checking its injuries. Minsu tried to sit up, but a wave of pain crashed over him. His clothes were smoldering. His skin was red and blistered. The smell of burned hair and fabric filled his nose. He looked at the child one last time. It was safe. It was looking back at him, its 4 dark eyes locked on his. Then, the world went dark, and he knew nothing more. The darkness was not peaceful. It was a hot, painful blackness filled with the memory of fire. Minsu felt like he was falling through a long, burning tunnel. He could not see, but he could feel. He felt the heat on his skin. He felt the sharp ache in his lungs with every breath he tried to take. Strange sounds echoed in his ears, the roar of the green flames, the cracking of the building, and a high, desperate clicking that he knew was the child. Then, a new feeling started to push through the pain. It was a cold sensation on his skin, It was a gentle pressure on his arms and chest. It was the feeling of clean bandages, and there was a sound, a steady, soft beeping noise that was calm and regular. It was a machine. He was in a hospital. He tried to open his eyes. It was hard, like his eyelids were made of heavy stone. The light in the room was soft, but it still hurt. He blinked slowly. The world was a blur of white and gray. Slowly, things came into focus. He was in a small, clean room. The walls were white. A monitor next to his bed showed glowing lines and numbers. That was where the beeping came from. Tubes were connected to his arm, giving him fluid and medicine. He tried to move his hand. A sharp, stinging pain shot up his arm. He looked down. His hands and arms were wrapped in thick, white biosynthetic bandages. They felt cool and tight against his burned skin. He could feel similar bandages on his neck and chest. Minsu, the voice was quiet and familiar. He turned his head slowly. It hurt to move his neck. His sister Gina was sitting in a chair next to his bed. Her eyes were red like she had been crying. But now she was smiling, a wide, relieved smile. "You're awake," she said. She reached out and very carefully put her hand on his bandaged arm. "Oh, Minsu, you've been asleep for a long time. How long?" His voice was a dry, rough whisper. It did not sound like his own. "A week," Gina said. Her smile wavered. "They put you in a coma. A medical coma. Your burns, they were very bad. The doctors said it was the best way to let your body start to heal. A week. He had been asleep for a whole week." He tried to remember. The fire, the child. The fall, the child? He asked. Gina's smile came back, stronger this time. "She's alive. Because of you. The Krillian medics were able to save her. Her leg is damaged, but they can fix it. Their medical technology is better than ours for their own bodies. She is going to be okay." Minsu let his head fall back onto the pillow. A deep feeling of relief washed over him. The child was safe. That was the only thing that mattered. He had done the right thing. "Everyone is talking about it," Gina said. She picked up a cup of water from the table and held the straw to his lips. He took a small sip. The cool water felt amazing on his dry throat. "They are calling you a hero. On the human news channels, at least." Minsu did not feel like a hero. He just felt tired and sore. "What do you mean, on the human channels?" Gina's face became serious. She put the cup down. "The Krillian government. They have been very quiet. They have not made any official statement. They have not thanked the human colony. They have not thanked you. It's like they want the whole thing to just disappear." "Why?" Minsu asked. It did not make sense. "He saved one of their children." "I don't know," Gina admitted. "It's strange. My contacts in the Enclave have stopped talking to me. The whole place is locked down. The political situation is not good. The colonial security forces are on high alert. They are worried the Krillians might see your action as an intrusion, or worse." This was too much for Minsu to understand. He was just a mechanic. He did not know about politics. He saw a child in trouble and he helped. How could that be a bad thing? A doctor came in then. She was a human woman with a kind face. She checked his monitor and looked at his bandages. "Good to see you awake, Minsu," she said. "You gave us quite a scare. How are you feeling?" "It hurts," he said honestly. "I'm sure it does," the doctor said. "You have second and third degree burns on over 20% of your body. But the biosynthetic bandages are doing their job. They are encouraging new skin growth and managing the pain. The nerve damage is significant, but we are hopeful." "Nerve damage?" Minsu asked. "From the heat," the doctor explained. "It's normal with these kinds of burns. You might feel strange sensations, tingling, aching, numbness as the nerves heal. It could last for a long time." She finished her check and made a note on a tablet. "Just rest now. Your body has been through a major trauma. Sleep is the best medicine." After the doctor left, Minsu tried to rest. But his mind would not be quiet. He thought about the fire. He remembered the feeling of the hot air in his lungs. He remembered the sound of the cracking wall. He remembered the weight of the child in his arms, and he felt a new ache. It was not on his skin. It was deeper in his bones. It was a dull, heavy pain that seemed to be in his legs and his spine. He thought it was just from the fall, or from lying in bed for a week. Over the next few days, he started to feel a little stronger. He could sit up in bed. He could eat soft food. Gina visited him every day, bringing him news from outside. The story was the same. The human colony was divided. Some people thought he was brave. They left flowers and messages at the door of the hospital. Others were angry. They said he made things worse with the Krillians. They said he should have minded his own business. The Krillians remained silent. It was like a wall had been built around their enclave. No one came in, no one came out. The deep ache in his bones did not go away. In fact, it seemed to be getting a little worse. It was a constant tired feeling, like he had a very bad flu. He mentioned it to a nurse. The nurse was busy. She looked at his chart. The doctor said you might have nerve pain. It's to be expected. We'll increase the pain medicine in your IV. But the medicine did not help the deep ache. It was different from the stinging pain of his burns. This felt like something was wrong inside him. One afternoon he was sleeping. His dreams were filled with fire again. But this time the fire was inside him. He felt it burning in his veins, a cold green fire that made his bones feel heavy and weak. He woke up suddenly, his heart pounding. The ache in his legs was throbbing. Gina was there reading a book. She looked up when he gasped. "Another bad dream?" she asked softly. He nodded, breathing heavily. "Gina, this pain, it doesn't feel right." She put her book down and came to his bedside. "What does it feel like?" "It's in my bones," he said. "It's a deep ache. It feels heavy, like my blood is too thick." Gina frowned. She looked worried. "I'll talk to the doctor again. Maybe they need to do more tests." She went to find the doctor. When she came back, the doctor was with her. The doctor listened to Minsu describe the pain again. "It's likely a combination of things," the doctor said, her tone professional but dismissive. "You had a major physical shock. You fell. You've been immobile. Your body is processing a lot of stress. The nerve damage can create very strange sensations. I really think it's all part of the normal healing process. Let's give it more time." The doctor left. Gina looked at Minsu. She did not look convinced. "She's probably right," Minsu said, trying to sound like he believed it. He did not want Gina to worry more than she already was. But later that night, as he lay awake staring at the ceiling, he knew the doctor was wrong. This was not normal. This was not nerve damage from burns. This felt like a sickness. A deep, creeping sickness that was slowly filling him up. He thought about the green fire. It was a chemical fire. A Krillian chemical fire. What was in it? He was inside it. He breathed the smoke. Did it poison him? The thought was frightening. He pushed it away. He was just tired. He was imagining things. He needed to sleep and get better. A few days later, the doctor said he was well enough to leave the hospital. His skin was healing well. The bandages on his hands and face could be removed, showing new pink skin underneath. He would have scars, but he was alive. Gina helped him pack his few things. She was taking him to her apartment to recover. It was smaller and quieter than his repair shop. As she pushed his wheelchair towards the exit, he looked down at his hands. The new skin was tight and shiny. It felt strange, but the deep ache in his bones was still there, a constant tired presence. He felt weaker than he should after a week of rest. They left the hospital and stepped out into the afternoon light. The air of the Colony Dome felt different. He saw people on the street looking at him. Some smiled and nodded. Others looked away quickly, their faces uneasy. He was free. He was a hero to some. He was a problem to others. And he carried a secret sickness inside him. A heavy ache that no one else could see and no one believed was real. He was going to Gina's home to rest, but he had a feeling that his troubles were only just beginning. The air in Gina's apartment was clean and still. It smelled like the simple food she cooked, not like metal and fuel. For the first few days, Minsu was grateful for the quiet. The hospital had been a place of constant noise and light. Here he could just sit by the window and watch the people in the street below. His body was healing. The pink skin on his hands and face was less tender each day. He could hold a cup without pain. He could walk from the bed to the chair without getting too tired. Gina was a good sister. She made him meals and did not ask too many questions when he was quiet. But the deep ache did not go away. It was his constant companion. It was a heavy feeling. Deep in his bones, like a weight was tied to his skeleton. It made him feel old and slow. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, he would wake up feeling like his blood was thick and cold, moving sluggishly through his veins. He told Gina about it again one morning. They were eating breakfast. He moved his arm slowly, trying to stretch out the dull pain in his shoulder. "It still hurts," he said. Inside, Gina put down her spoon. She looked at him with serious eyes. I believe you, Minsu. The doctor said it was nerve damage, but I've been reading about the fire. The Krillians use different chemicals. Their fires burn at a much higher temperature. The smoke is toxic in ways we don't fully understand. Do you think I was poisoned? Minsu asked. The question felt heavy in the quiet room. I don't know, Gina said softly. It's possible. Our medical scanners are made for human biology. They might not detect a foreign toxin, especially one from Krillian chemistry. A feeling of cold dread settled in Minsu's stomach. It was one thing to be burned. That was an injury. It would heal. But a poison inside you? That was different. That could be forever. Later that day, he was sitting by the window again. He watched the normal life of the colony. People walked to work. Children played. It all seemed so simple. He felt separate from it, like he was watching a play from behind a thick glass wall. Then the light changed. It did not fade like the sunset. It was swallowed. A great shadow fell over the entire habitation block, turning the afternoon into a deep twilight. The street below went quiet. People stopped and looked up. Minsu leaned forward, his heart starting to beat faster. The deep ache in his bones seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. What he saw in the sky made his breath catch. It was a ship. But it was like no ship he had ever seen. Human ships were boxy and practical, covered in antennas and thrusters. Krillian trade ships were elegant and looked like seashells or twisted crystals. This ship was different. It was long and sharp like a black dagger. It had no visible engines, no windows, no markings. Its surface was a matte black that seemed to absorb the light, making it look like a hole cut in the sky. It descended towards the colony without a sound. There was no roar of engines, no whistle of air. It was utterly silent, and that silence was more frightening than any noise. It moved with a slow, terrible purpose. It did not head for the spaceport or the Krillian enclave. It came straight for the central human residential zone. It came straight for them. Gina, Minsu said. His voice was tight. She came running from the other room. She looked out the window and her hand flew to her mouth. By all the stars. What is that? I don't know, Minsu whispered. The ship came to a stop, hovering perfectly still over their building. It blocked out the sun completely. The room was now dark, lit only by the glow of the kitchen light. Then they heard it. A sound. It was not loud, but it was precise. It was a knock on the door, tap, 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 3 sharp, clean knocks. The sound was firm and authoritative. It was not the friendly knock of a neighbor. It was the knock of someone who expected the door to be opened. Minsu and Gina looked at each other. Fear was on both their faces. The shadow of the ship filled the room. The silence from outside was deafening. They're here for me, Minsu said. The words came out before he could stop them. He knew it was true. He felt it in his aching bones. It could be colonial security, Gina said, but she didn't sound like she believed it. Maybe they want to ask you more questions. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. It was more impatient this time. Gina took a deep breath. She walked to the door. Her steps were slow. Minsu stood up. His legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall, watching. Gina pressed the button to open the door. It slid aside with a quiet hiss. They were not human security officers. Standing in the hallway were 3 Krillians. But these were not the traders or officials Gina studied. These were soldiers. They were taller than any Krillian Minsu had ever seen. Their exoskeletons were not the usual earthy browns and greens. They were a polished mirror-like black, reflecting the frightened faces of Minsu and Gina back at them. Their armor was sharp and angular, covering their bodies without a single seam. They carried no visible weapons, but their long, sharp limbs looked deadly enough. The one in the middle took a single step forward. He was the tallest. His large compound eyes were like pools of liquid darkness. They scanned the room quickly, missing nothing before fixing on Minsu. The soldier's voice was a low, synthesized hum. It was not a natural sound. It came from a device on his chest. We are here for the human, Minsu. The words were flat. There was no anger in them. There was no kindness. There was only a cold, simple statement of fact. Minsu's blood ran cold. This was it. This was what everyone had feared. The Krillians were not grateful. They were angry. They saw his rescue as a violation. They had come to take him away, to punish him, to make an example of the human who entered their space. Gina stepped in front of Minsu, putting herself between him and the soldiers. Why? She asked, her voice shaking but brave. What do you want with him? The lead soldier, the commander, did not look at her. His dark eyes remained locked on Minsu. He is required, the commander hummed. Required for what? Gina demanded. You can't just take him. He is a citizen of this colony. He needs to answer to human law. The commander finally shifted his gaze to Gina. It was a slow, deliberate movement. The silence in the room was heavy. Human law is not relevant, the commander said, his voice still a calm, low hum. The one named Minsu was exposed to a unique element. He is now a matter for the hegemony. He will come with us. Minsu felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. A unique element. The poison. They knew about it. This was not about punishment. This was about the sickness inside him. Were they going to take him away to die? To stop him from spreading some alien disease? He looked at the tall black soldiers. They were like statues, perfect and unmoving. He looked at Gina, standing in front of him, trying to protect him. He felt the heavy, aching pain in his bones, a constant reminder of the fire. He had saved a child, and for that he had been given a death sentence, first by a slow poison, and now by these elite soldiers who had come to collect him. He knew he had no choice. He could not fight them. No one in the human colony could stop them. If he refused, they would probably just take him by force, and they might hurt Gina in the process. He took a slow, painful step forward. He put his hand on Gina's shoulder, gently moving her aside. It's okay, Gina, he said. His voice was quiet, but it did not shake. He looked at the commander. The soldier's dark eyes were impossible to read. I will come with you, Minsu said. The commander gave a single, sharp nod. It was not a friendly gesture. It was an order confirmed. The two soldiers behind him moved forward. They did not grab Minsu. They simply flanked him, one on each side. Their presence was like a wall. Gina reached for Minsu's arm. No, you can't go with them. We don't know what they'll do. The commander's humming voice filled the room again. The female will remain. There will be no harm to the human, Minsu. This is a matter of debt, not punishment. The words did not make sense. Debt? What debt? Minsu looked at the commander, confused. But the soldier had already turned and was walking out the door. The two soldiers beside Minsu waited. He knew he was supposed to follow. He gave Gina one last look. Her eyes were wide with fear and tears. I'll find help, she whispered. I'll tell everyone. Minsu did not think anyone could help. He walked out of the apartment, the black-armored soldiers moving silently beside him. The hallway was empty. The other residents were hiding behind their doors, too scared to come out. They walked down the stairs and out into the street. The black ship still hung in the sky, a silent, dark mountain. A circle of light appeared on its underside. A beam of pure white energy shot down, surrounding Minsu and the soldiers. For a moment he felt weightless. Then he was inside the ship. The inside was as silent and dark as the outside. The walls were a smooth, seamless black. There were no chairs, no controls that he could see. The commander stood at the front, perfectly still. The other two soldiers stood by the closed entrance. The ship began to move. Minsu felt no vibration, no sense of acceleration. One moment they were hovering over his street. The next, the view through the front of the ship showed they were moving quickly away from the human colony, towards the Krillian enclave. They did not go to the trade sector or the residential spires. They flew towards a part of the enclave Minsu had never seen. It was a fortress built into the side of a mountain. It was made of the same black, polished material as the soldiers' armor. The ship entered a hidden opening in the mountain and landed without a sound. The door opened. The commander turned to Minsu. Come, he hummed. Minsu followed him out of the ship and into a vast, dark hall. The air was cool and smelled of ozone and something else, something sharp and clean. The hall was empty except for a few more of the black-armored soldiers standing along the walls. They were all as still as statues. At the far end of the hall on a raised platform was a single figure. It was a Krillian, but unlike any other. Its exoskeleton was a pale, pearly white, etched with fine silver lines. It was smaller than the soldiers, and it sat with a quiet authority. Minsu realized it was the Krillian child he had saved. Ely, she was sitting upright. Her injured leg was wrapped in a clear, glowing cast. When she saw Minsu, her whole body straightened. Her 4 dark eyes fixed on him. The commander stopped a few meters from the platform. He did not bow, but he stood with a deep respect. He spoke to the child in their own clicking, chattering language. His voice, even in its natural form, was softer when he spoke to her. Then the commander turned back to Minsu. His synthesized voice returned. "This is Ailey," he said, "first daughter of the Hive Queen, the sole heir to the Krillian hegemony." Minsu stared at the child. He had saved a child. He did not know she was a princess. He did not know what that meant. He just looked at her and she looked back at him. He saw no fear in her eyes now. Only a deep, serious intelligence, the commander continued. The fire was not an accident. It was an attack. A targeted assassination attempt on the royal line. The chemical used was laced with a unique radioactive isotope, a biotoxin. It is keyed only to the royal bloodline. It is a poison that is harmless to all others, but is 100% fatal to any royal Krillian who breathes it. Minsu's mind was reeling. An assassination. A poison meant for a child. It was horrible. I don't understand, Minsu said. What does this have to do with me? The commander's dark eyes seemed to sharpen. You were in the fire. You breathed the same smoke. You were covered in the burning chemical. That poison should have killed you instantly. Your human biology should have had no defense against it, but you did not die. He took a step closer to Minsu. Our medics scanned you in the human hospital. They detected the isotope in your body, but they also detected something else. Your body is not dying from it. Your immune system is fighting it. More than that, your cells are learning. They are beginning to synthesize the natural counteragent, the very thing that would save Ailey's life, if she were ever exposed again. Your body is making the cure. Minsu stood completely still, the deep ache in his bones, the heavy feeling in his blood. It was not his imagination. It was not just nerve damage. He had been poisoned. But instead of killing him, his body was fighting back. It was creating the answer to the poison. He looked down at his own hands, at the new pink skin. Inside him, a silent war was being fought, and he was winning. The debt we owe you is immeasurable, the commander hummed, and for the first time Minsu thought he heard a hint of emotion in the flat voice. You saved our future queen from the fire, and by a miracle we cannot explain. Your body now holds the key to her continued survival. You are unique, a biological wonder. The commander gestured to the soldiers along the wall. We are the Vespid Guard, the protectors of the royal family. Our lives are pledged to their service. He turned his gaze fully on Minsu. The hegemony has voted. We have two offers for you, the human who burned for us. Minsu could barely breathe. What offers? First, the commander said, we can cure you. We can use the data from your body to create a treatment that will purge the isotope from your system. The pain you feel will be gone. You can return to your life healthy and whole. That was all Minsu had wanted to hear for weeks. A cure. An end to the aching weight inside him. It sounded like a dream. And the second offer? Minsu asked, his voice barely a whisper. The commander was silent for a long moment. The only sound was the soft rhythmic clicking from Ailey on her platform. The second offer, the commander said, is a place among us. Your body creates the ultimate protection for our queen. Your courage is without question. The Vespid Guard invites you to join our ranks. You would be the first non-Krillian. The first human. You would be trained. You would be given a purpose greater than yourself. You would stand as a living shield for the one you saved. Minsu stared at the commander, then at the silent, elite soldiers around the hall. He looked at Ailey, the small child whose life was so important that people would try to kill her. He thought of his quiet repair shop. He thought of the simple, orderly life he had before the fire. That life was gone. He was different now. He carried a poison and a cure inside his own blood. He could go back. He could be cured and try to forget. But he would always know. He would always feel the ghost of that ache, the memory of that ship at his doorstep. Or he could step forward into a strange and terrifying new world. He could become a soldier for an alien race. He could protect the child he had already saved once. He looked at Ailey. She was watching him, her head tilted. She made a soft, questioning click. Minsu took a deep breath. He thought of Gina, waiting and afraid. He would have to send her a message. He would have to make her understand. He looked the commander in his dark, unreadable eyes. I accept, Minsu said. I will join you. The commander, who Minsu now knew was named Tegan, gave another of his sharp nods. This one felt different. It was not just an order confirmed. It was an acceptance. The process begins now, Commander Tegan hummed. He turned and led Minsu out of the great hall and into a smaller, brighter room. This room was a medical bay. The equipment was strange, shaped for Krillian bodies, all smooth curves and soft blue lights. A medic, not in armor but in a simple gray tunic, was waiting. He gestured for Minsu to lie on a flat, padded table. "We will stabilize the isotope in your system," Tegan explained. "It will stop the pain. The full cure will take more time, but you will no longer feel the ache." Minsu lay down. He was scared, but he was also so tired of the heavy feeling in his bones. The medic moved a glowing wand over his body. A cool sensation spread through him, starting from his chest and moving out to his arms and legs. It was like drinking a cold glass of water on a hot day. The deep grinding ache that had been his constant companion for weeks began to fade. It did not vanish completely, but it became a distant whisper instead of a loud shout. He let out a slow breath he didn't realize he was holding. For the first time in a long time, he felt light. Next, they took his human clothes. One of the soldiers brought him a set of dark, flexible garments. They were like the undersuit the guards wore beneath their armor. The material felt strange against his new skin, but it was soft and comfortable. Then came the armor. It was not given to him all at once. The soldiers brought it piece by piece. Greaves for his shins, a cuirass for his chest, vambraces for his forearms. Each piece was a matte black, like the ship and the other soldiers' armor. But as they fitted it to him, Minsu saw that it was different. His armor had fine, almost invisible lines etched into it. They were not silver like the marks on Ailey's shell. They were a deep, pulsing blue. The same blue as the healing cast on Ailey's leg. The same blue as the energy beam that had brought him onto the ship. "The blue signifies your unique nature," Tegan said, watching as a soldier fastened the chest plate. "It marks you as the life giver, the carrier of the cure. In our guard, you will not be just another soldier. You are a symbol." Minsu looked at his reflection in a dark panel on the wall. He saw a stranger, a man in sleek alien armor with glowing blue lines tracing across it. He saw the scars on his face and hands pale against the dark material. He did not look like a hero or a symbol. He looked like a mechanic wearing a costume that was too grand for him. When the armor was fully on, it was surprisingly light. It moved with him like a second skin. He felt stronger in it, safer. Tegan led him to a training room. It was a large, empty space with a floor that seemed to be made of hard light. "Your training will be long and difficult," Tegan said. "Your body is different. Your mind is human, but we will teach you." He did not start with fighting. He started with standing. He showed Minsu how to stand like a Vespid guard. Feet apart, weight balanced, body perfectly still. It was a stance of readiness and patience. Then he taught him how to walk. Not a human walk with a slight bounce. A guard's walk, smooth, silent, and efficient. Every movement with a purpose. Minsu practiced for what felt like hours. His human body wanted to move in its old, familiar ways. He had to think about every step. Later, they let him send a message to Gina. He stood in a small communication room. A screen showed her apartment. She was sitting at her table, her face pale and worried. When she saw him, her eyes widened in shock. "Minsu, are you okay? What did they do to you?" "I am okay, Gina, better than okay." He tried to smile, but it felt strange. "They are not hurting me, they offered me a choice." He explained it to her as simply as he could. The poison, the cure his body was making, the two offers. When he told her he had chosen to stay to join the guard, she was silent for a long time. "You're not coming back?" she finally asked, her voice small. "Not to live," he said gently. "This is my path now. I can't go back to the shop, Gina, not after this. I carry something too important inside me." Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded slowly. "I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. You were always a fixer. Now you're fixing something much bigger." She managed a weak smile. "My brother, the alien soldier." "Be careful, Minsu." "I will," he promised. The days turned into a routine. Wake up, train, eat the simple, nutrient-rich paste the Krillians provided. Train some more. He learned how to hold and fire a Krillian energy pulse rifle. He learned basic hand-to-hand combat, using the hard points of his armor as weapons. He was clumsy at first. The other guards were faster and stronger, but they were not unkind. They corrected him with sharp, precise gestures. They were a unit, and he was now a part of it, even if he was a broken part for now. Sometimes during his training, Ailey would come to watch. She would sit on the edge of the training room, her small legs dangling. She did not speak his language, and he did not speak hers, but she would watch him with her 4 dark eyes following his movements. Once, after he fell for the 10th time trying to master a difficult role, she made a soft, encouraging click. It reminded him of the sound she made in the fire. He was not becoming a Krillian. He was becoming something new, a human shaped by a Krillian purpose. The scars on his skin were a map of his past. The blue lines on his armor were a map of his future. One evening, Commander Tegan came to him. Minsu was in his small, bare room, polishing his armor as he had been taught. "The first stage of your cure is complete," Tegan said. "The poison is neutralized. The ache is gone." Minsu stopped and listened. He realized it was true. The heavy feeling was completely absent. His body felt like his own again, but stronger. "The second stage will take longer," Tegan continued. "Your body will continue to produce the counteragent. We will take small samples. It will become a part of you, like your own blood. It will not harm you. It will protect you from many toxins." Minsu nodded. It was a strange thing to think about. His blood was now a shield. "You have learned the basic steps," Tegan said. "Now you will learn the most important one." He led Minsu out of the room and back to the great hall where he had first seen Ailey. The hall was empty except for the 2 of them. Tegan walked to the center of the room and turned to face Minsu. "The oath of the Vespid Guard is not spoken," Tegan hummed. "It is shown. It is a promise made with the body." "Repeat my stance." Tegan stood perfectly straight. He did not salute. Instead, he brought his right fist to the center of his chest plate, directly over his heart. He bowed his head not in submission but in dedication. Minsu stood opposite him. He took a deep breath. He straightened his back just as he had been taught. He moved his feet into the perfect balance of the guard's stance. He felt the cool, smooth surface of his own armor under his fingers. He brought his right fist to his chest, over his own human heart beating inside its cage of alien metal. The blue lines on his vambrace glowed softly. He bowed his head. He did not say any words. He did not need to. The silence in the hall was full of meaning. He was promising to protect. He was promising to serve. He was promising to be a shield. He was no longer Minsu the mechanic. He was Minsu of the Vespid Guard, the man who had burned in a fire and been forged into something new.